So look, let's talk about the definition of abortion first of all. Wikipedia defined abortion as a termination of a pregnancy by the removal or expulsion from the uterus of a fetus or embryo prior to viability. Now, we'll come back to that.
So then there's the definition of viability.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
Yep.
And then the Webster Dictionary defines it as the act of giving premature birth, particularly the expulsion of the human fetus prematurely or before it is capable of sustaining life.
Right.
Okay, so is there such a time when the fetus or embryo can be classified prior to viability or before it is capable of sustaining life?
All right, so that's a fairly important question. The answer, bluntly, is no. From God's perspective and what you observe in the spirit world, when a couple get together and they have sex, at the moment of conception is the moment that the soul of the child has actually been attached to the spirit body and physical body that the conceived embryo, if you like, it's not even an embryo at that point, it's just the cells dividing. And this happens within a few moments of conception. And when I say a few moments, not a very long period at all. And in fact, in many cases, if the woman in particular is sensitive to that attachment of the soul to the growing, shall we call it, organism within the womb at that point, then she will also feel that that conception has taken place, because she'll be able to feel and sense the soul of the child already. Yeah.
I must admit, this wasn't part of my questions, but
yeah.
I must admit, the 2 pregnancies that I aborted, I didn't feel that. But at the age later on in life, around 40, I fell pregnant again, and I knew instantly that I was pregnant.
Exactly.
And when I told my husband at the time, how would you know that? But
exactly.
I instantly knew.
The reason why the earlier stages you didn't feel it is because the human mind has a large... denial has a large effect on what you feel. And the human mind in denial has a very large effect on what it feels from its own body even. So there are many people who feel very little pain in their own body, and yet as soon as they connect, they stop using denial as a tool to control what happens to their body, then they start feeling the pains in the different body. And it's a similar principle when it comes to pregnancy, although pregnancy isn't a pain in the body. But if the mind is in denial and does not want to be pregnant, then that has a very, very large effect on whether the person is sensitive to the pregnancy actually occurring.
And that was the case in my first 2 pregnancies, but
yes.
in the 3rd pregnancy I was desiring it.
That's correct.
Yes.
So since you were desiring it, you were now open to the knowing of it, and the instant you became pregnant, you knew straight away. And the reason why is because the little tiny soul, if we could call it, it's a soul in their first incarnation. It's not a reincarnated soul, but a first incarnation soul that's now attached to those organisms which become bodies growing in you. There's 2 bodies growing inside of the womb. One is a physical body, and the other is a spirit body. They look almost identical to each other as they grow. Their genetic structure is very similar. And as they grow, eventually the woman generally becomes aware because of the changes to her body, but she is capable of being aware right from the moment of conception.
Thank you.